ধন্যবাদ। 16ই ডিসেম্বর 1971 সেদিন কি ঘটেছিল ঢাকাতে, যখন একের পর এক মুক্তাঞ্চল পাড়ি দিয়ে সবাই ঢাকার দিকে আসছিলেন। কি হয়েছিল সেদিন ঢাকায়? সেদিনকার রেসকোর্স ময়দানে আত্মসমর্পণকে ঘিরে এবং পুরো ঢাকায় যে উত্তাল ঢাকা, যে বিজয়ের আনন্দের ঢাকা, সেদিন যারা প্রত্যক্ষ করেছিলেন সেই প্রত্যক্ষদর্শীদের বিবরণ থেকে সংকলিত করে একটি ধারা বর্ণনা আমরা শুনব ইংরেজিতে, যেটি আমাদের জন্য খেটে খুঁটে লিখে দিয়েছেন ডক্টর শামীম আহমেদ। আমরা কৃতজ্ঞতার কাছে। এবং এই ধারা বর্ণনাটি পাঠ করবেন আমাদের অনিন্দিতা বর্ণমালা এবং অর্ণিমা আহমেদ।
Good evening, everyone. Thank you so much for being here. Today, we're here to celebrate and honor again Bangladesh's Victory Day, the day Bangladesh finally won the war against Pakistan for our independence and for our nation as one. And so we hope that through this short story, we can not only convey the events and the feelings of our people, but also that feeling and that emotion of hope that day. The day started with a strange softness in the air. Dhaka woke up with the unsure quiet of a city that had carried sorrow for far too long. The early light touched the rooftops with pale gold, and the narrow lanes seemed to wait for something that had not yet spoken its name. People stepped out of their homes with careful eyes and steady breaths, carrying a hope they were almost afraid to feel. Small groups huddled around radios that crackled with broken voices. Men stood silently, cups in hand. A shopkeeper repeatedly wiped his counter. A rickshaw driver leaned forward, gazing down the empty street as if he sensed something approaching from afar. A quiet, unspoken question moved between them like a tiny spark. Is it today? No one said it louder, but the hope was fragile that morning. By noon, the sky shifted. A bright, heavy light bathed Dhaka, as if a curtain was being lifted. A warm wind moved through the neighborhoods, carrying the faint promise that made even the dust seem alive. Children ran through the lanes with excited voices, pointing toward the cantonment, whispering rumors of a meeting and a decision. Adults watched the same horizon, their faces calm, marked by the years of pain. For the first time in long, long months, the city felt like it was standing upright again.
The afternoon brought distant rumbles, not the terrifying blast that tore through nights, but deep rolling echoes like the final beats of a long struggle. Radios inside tea stalls flickered alive. Broken sentences poured out, something official, something decisive. Men froze in place. Women stopped their chores mid-motion. A message swept through Dhaka like a low wave of wind. A meeting has begun. Something is ending. As the sun lowered, people began moving towards the racecourse. No one commanded them. No announcement was made. But was it the declaration of war by Bangabandhu that was roaming around the wind of Dhaka? Was it his firm, decisive command that was leading them to the racecourse to bring the win home?
The city simply rose and moved together. The streets filled with men and women who carried silence as if it were a sacred cloth. Children clung to hands. Elderly men walked with steady steps. The sky grew deep and warm above them as they gathered around the open, wide field. The racecourse filled and settled like a giant living sea. Shadows stretched across the grass. Flags rested in quiet hands. The air thickened with the sense that the long night was finally giving away. Even the birds on the nearby branches seemed to pause and look down at the gathering.
Then the movement started in the middle of the field. The air grew tense. Soldiers from the Pakistan army advanced quietly. Their steps were slow, shoulders hunched, faces showing exhaustion and defeat. They carried papers that marked the end of their control in East Pakistan, their surrender to the new country, Bangladesh. Across from them stood the representatives of the Indian Army and the newly formed Bangladesh forces. Their presence was steady, calm, and unshaken. The Indian commander stood with solemn dignity. Behind him, the Bangladesh officers held their heads high, wearing the weight of sacrifice and victory with quiet pride. The table was brought forward, a simple wooden table under the vast open sky. Papers were laid out, pens were laid carefully. A silence spread across the field so deep that the heartbeat of the moment could be felt in every chest.
The Pakistani commander stepped forward. His hand trembled slightly as he reached for the pen. Behind him, officers who once commanded fear now looked drained of all certainty. Their uniforms seemed to sag under the weight of a war, lost not only to armies, but to the spirit of a people who refused to bow. Across from them, the representatives of India and Bangladesh watched silently. Their eyes reflected the memory of this land's long, long suffering. The crowd stood still and upright. Some held their breath, some clasped hands, some placed a palm over their chest. The pen touched the paper. It moved oh so slowly, one long line, and then another, a signature that sealed the fate of a regime and opened the future of a nation. With that signature, the Pakistan army surrendered to the joint command of India and the Bangladesh forces. Finally, it was complete and irrevocable. The crowd did not react at first. It was as if Dhaka needed a single moment to really believe what its eyes had just witnessed. Then the silence broke.
Dhaka erupted with a roar that rose from every street and every doorway. Flags burst open like bright flames in the night. Children jumped and shouted with unrestrained joy. Mothers cried openly, letting the tears of many silent years flow down their cheeks. Fathers lifted their children high above the crowd as if offering them the newborn freedom. People ran into the streets. They called out to neighbors. They embraced strangers. They beat drums. They banged pots and pans. They raised their voices in songs that had been forbidden. Fires of celebrations glowed on the rooftops. The night sky sparkled as if the stars themselves had leaned close to watch this rebirth. Dhaka no longer felt like a wounded city. It stood tall and alive. It breathed as a free land for the first time. The warm night wind carried the sound of triumph across the fields and neighborhoods, and everywhere, in every heart, the truth settled in.
Finally, the long night had ended.
Bangladesh was free.
Thank you so much, Bordumala and Shamim Ahmed. এবারে আজকে এই যে স্ক্রিপ্টটি আমরা শুনলাম, আমি যিনি লিখেছেন শামীম আহমেদ, আমি শামীম ভাইকে বিনীতভাবে আহ্বান করছি সংক্ষেপে এই স্ক্রিপ্টের উপরে আপনি দুটো কথা বলবেন এবং তারপরেই আমরা আমাদের জাগরণের গানে চলে যাব। শামীম আহমেদ।
আলাইকুম, জয় বাংলা। আমি সময় নেব না। যখন আমাকে হিমাদ্রিদা প্রস্তাবটা দিল প্রায় 4 মাস আগে যে আমরা আমাদের মুক্তিযুদ্ধ নিয়ে চিন্তা করি, কিন্তু 16ই ডিসেম্বর আসলে কেমন ছিল, আমরা যারা এখানে আছি তাদের অনেকের তো সেই স্মৃতি নেই। আমরা মুক্তিযুদ্ধে 10, 12, 15, 20 বছর পর অনেকে জন্মেছি। তো আমি গত 4 মাস ধরে যতগুলো বই, সম্ভব পড়েছি, পত্রিকার রিপোর্ট পড়েছি, সেদিনের মানুষের বর্ণনাগুলো পড়েছি এবং সেখান থেকে আমার অনুভূতিটুকু লেখার চেষ্টা করেছি। আপনারা যদি সেটা পছন্দ করেন সেজন্য কৃতজ্ঞতা জানি। আমার মনে হয় ওরা দুজন অসম্ভব ভালো কাজ করেছে। এটা ডকুমেন্টেড হয়ে থাকলো 16ই ডিসেম্বর 1971 বাংলাদেশিদের মনে কীভাবে ভূমিকা রাখে সেটা যাতে আমরা সবসময় মনে রাখি। সবাইকে মহান বিজয় দিবসের শুভেচ্ছা জানাই। অনেক ধন্যবাদ। জয় বাংলা, জয় বঙ্গবন্ধু।
ধন্যবাদ শামীম আহমেদ। আমরা যারা প্রবাসে থাকি, প্রবাসে আছি, আমরা আমাদের সন্তানদেরকে সেইভাবে ইতিহাস তাদেরকে শেখাতে পারবো না, কিন্তু আমরা তাদেরকে ক্লু ধরিয়ে দিতে পারি। শুধু এই একটি লাইন যদি তাদের কচি মনে গেঁথে দিতে পারি যে 16ই ডিসেম্বর রেসকোর্স ময়দানে পাকিস্তানিরা হাঁটু গেড়ে বীর বাঙালিদের সামনে আত্মসমর্পণ করেছিল। আই স্ট্রংলি বিলিভ দ্যাট আমাদের প্রজন্ম এত স্মার্ট, ওরা তথাকথিত জেন জির মতো নয়। দে উইল ফাইন্ড ইট হোয়াটস অ্যাকচুয়ালি হ্যাপেন ইন দ্যাট ডে। আমার বিশ্বাস আজকে থেকে বর্ণমালা এবং অর্ণিম আহমেদ তারা আরও বেশি বেশি করে এই বিষয়টিকে জানবে।